Hey guys, everything new under the sun. Well, you know I believe in creation, 6 days of creation, not evolution. I believe the Earth is about 6,000 years, and we're nearing the end of it. We only have about 10 years left of the 6,000 years of man on this planet. I believe that quite literally the end of the world could be 2028. I believe that makes sense for a number of reasons. I've done videos on that. You can review it. There's other well-known people that believe a similar time frame is in effect. All that being said, this is interesting information for the creation folks out there. New research, new science, providing insight into radiocarbon dating, and it's going to alter history. Now, this isn't specifically about millions of years versus thousands of years. But this is interesting nonetheless. This is a June 1st article. This is from cornelleducation.com. Well, news.cornell.edu. But it's from Cornell University. New radiocarbon cycle research may alter history. So you see a guy there taking a core sample of what is supposedly an old tree, an old cedar or something like that. Scientific research often depends on a degree of certainty. I would hope so. I would hope there's a degree of certainty there. Science is supposed to be based on empirical evidence, observable and repeatable in the lab. And much of the dating techniques are not observable or repeatable in the lab with any length of time. You can only test something for so long as you're alive, and you can observe it in the lab. So we can't observe anything. One person can't observe anything for more than 70 years. Well, it depends on a degree of certainty, yes, in the data while allowing for the likelihood of change. So scientific research has to allow for change, apparently. And this gets into uniformitarianism, which evolution depends on, as opposed to the chance that catastrophe or changes in the atmosphere or changes in the climate occur. Well, new findings overriding old theories and creating new ones, change is a given. So they're recognizing that change is a given. Catastrophic change, I would add in there, especially true when taking weather and climate into account. Absolutely, I agree with that. The Earth has actually been a lot hotter in the past than it is now. So climate change, people who say the warming of the Earth 2 degrees is a big deal. No, the Earth has been warmer than that in the past. We know that through ice samples and all these other resources that we can observe and measure. Well, archaeologist Sturt Manning and his colleagues revealed variations in radiocarbon cycle at certain periods of time. So there's variation in radiocarbon cycles which could throw off the actual aging measurements taken of historical objects, affecting frequently cited standards used in archaeological and historical research relevant to the southern Levant, so the greater, that's the Promised Land, the Levant, the greater area of Israel, not Israel proper right now, but the Promised Land is in the Bible, Israel, southern Jordan, and Egypt. These variations or offsets of up to 20 years in calibration of precise radiocarbon dating could be related to climactic conditions. So now these researchers agree that climactic conditions will change radiocarbon dating. So what if you had a worldwide flood? Is that not a major catastrophic climactic condition which would severely change radiocarbon dating? Yes, indeed it is. Of course, they're not going to say that or admit to it, but that is exactly what we see here. Manning, the Goldwin Smith Professor of Classical Archaeology in the Department of Classics and Director of the Cornell Tree Ring Laboratory, is the lead author of Fluctuating Radiocarbon Offsets Observed in Southern Levant and Implications for Archaeological Chronology Debates. That's from May 29th. In the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. So a well-published organization there. Pre-modern radiocarbon chronologies rely on standardized northern and southern hemisphere calibration curves. So there is some sort of calibration that they understand has to be there, but is that calibration curve accurate? So they depend on these curves to obtain calendar dates from organic material. The current Northern Hemisphere standard is INT Cal 13, published in 2013. The standard calibration curves assume that at any given time, radiocarbon levels are similar and stable everywhere across each hemisphere. So what are they finding? In fact, they're finding that they're not stable. The Cornell-led team has questions and suspicions. We went looking to test the assumption behind the whole field of radiocarbon dating. That's a great place to start when you're thinking about creation evolution. We know from atmospheric measurements over the last 50 years, that's the only observable period of time. So in terms of empirical evidence of what radiocarbon dating provides, they have measurements over 50 years. Okay, so that's not very much in the time span of the age of the Earth, 6,000 years, or even millions of years. It would be even more inaccurate for millions of years, but still inaccurate for 6,000. So 50 years is all the time of measurement which they're drawing upon as the basis for the uniformitarianism, worldview that they have. That radiocarbon levels vary through the year. And we also know that plants typically grow at different times in different parts of the northern hemisphere. So we wonder whether radiocarbon levels relevant to dating organic material might also vary for different areas. So this is going to throw the dates off in various areas of the hemisphere. The dates will be wildly different potentially because of the different habitats, the different climatic areas that they're in. Some research has suggested there might be regional differences in radiocarbon levels and hence problems for the standard model. I think there's much larger problems than they're admitting to because climatic changes are likely more pronounced throughout history, throughout the last 6,000 years. And they would absolutely be different through the history, of millions of years, if evolution is true, which it is not. But if you take, the asteroid that fell to Earth and apparently made the dinosaurs go extinct, which is a whole nother series of questions. Check out Ken Hoven's latest series of videos on living dinosaurs that may be alive today. Awesome stuff. He's doing a series as we speak right now. The last number of days he's been doing videos about dinosaurs in the Congo and Cameroon that have been recently sighted. Amazing stuff. Even if evolution is true and that's the great asteroid came and destroyed the dinosaurs, that's catastrophic. They believe in uniformitarianism, so nothing has really changed, so we can measure stuff based on what we see today. But they also believe in catastrophic things occurring, like the asteroid impact that apparently killed the dinosaurs. Well, you can't believe in both uniformitarianism and catastrophism. I think catastrophism, is that the word? You can't believe in both, but they do, basically because each one provides a certain answer that they want answered, provides a reason for what they believe, what their worldview is, because they can't explain why the dinosaurs ceased from existence outside of an asteroid impact. But at the same time, in order to measure carbon, and to have all these measuring techniques, they have to assume what we see now is the same as it was in the past. Well, it's not, because you have these big catastrophes occur. They just don't want to believe in the catastrophe of the worldwide flood. The authors measured a series of carbon-14 ages in southern Jordan tree rings with established calendar dates between 1610 and 1940. They found that contemporary plant material growing in southern Levant shows an average offset of 19 years compared to IntCal 13. So they're seeing an error of 19 years. If you stretch that over thousands of years, I wonder what sort of error that would indicate. Manning noted scholars working on early Iron Age and biblical chronology in Jordan and Israel are doing sophisticated projects with radiocarbon age analysis, basically to figure out if their dating is accurate, which is great. I mean, I think they're going to, the more research they do, the more it moves them closer to the idea of a young Earth, a young age of the Earth. It goes on. This then becomes the timeline of history. But our work indicates that it's arguable their fundamental basis is faulty. They're using calibration curve that is not accurate for the region. And I would even add to that saying the calibration curve doesn't account for catastrophes which have happened, which evolutionists agree happened in the past, and that we do see happen in the current right now with volcanoes going off and climate change apparently occurring, the increase in the temperature. Major catastrophes do happen in the Earth, and that's all going to change the radiocarbon dating baseline. The standard IntCal 13 curve is constructed for measurements of radiocarbon levels in trees from Central and Northern Europe and North America. Comparing the team's results against IntCal 13, trees growing in southern Jordan are showing different amount of radiocarbon compared to trees in Central and Northern Europe. Yes, so they're getting closer. Science and scientists get closer and closer. They won't admit that the Earth is 6,000 years old until they're forced to when the Lord returns and shows his power. But they're getting there. Science always gets a little bit closer, a little bit closer. Apparent fluctuations in the offset through time may be a consequence of climatic changes, periods of warming and cooling, modulating the local growing seasons. And this is exactly what the flood would help to influence. Absolutely. These variations seem to relate to changes in regional climate, which likely see growing seasons move a little earlier or a little later. Absolutely. This article goes on, but I think the point of this, I think, from a creation point of view, is that science is now seeing that radiocarbon dating is flawed, and it's their scales that they use, which they've only made from measurements over the last 50 years, are inaccurate. There's larger, bigger issues with their dating scales. They're not taking into account fluctuations. They're not taking into account catastrophes. They're assuming uniformitarianism, which by their own standard, by their own religion of evolution, can't be true, because they've already said that things like the Big Bang has happened, that's a catastrophe, and that the asteroid impact killed the dinosaurs. That's a catastrophe. They're not taking these things into account. They take catastrophe and uniformitarianism into account at different times when it suits their purposes to present their worldview as fact. And in fact, their worldview is inaccurate. They're not taking into account the catastrophes that happen all the time around the planet. And so they're getting closer. Science always gets closer. And as they learn more, as they admit to more, it proves that the Bible is actually accurate. It decreases the amount of time that is possible for the Earth. So pretty interesting stuff, guys. I'll put the link in the description. I'm sure ICR and creation.com will start talking about this. If they're not already, I haven't even checked them yet. But from a creation point of view, this is more proof that the Bible is accurate. Creation is the more scientific explanation for the age of the earth, the age and what we see basically empirically, what we can observe and repeat in the lab. This is proof, more proof for the creation side of things, and evolution is a false theory, and it's a dangerous theory because it teaches people that there is no God, and those people will go to hell if they don't recognize their need for a savior. And if evolution is true, they don't need a savior. They are their own gods, and that's the problem with evolution. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll leave it there, and I will see you guys in the next video.